Take, presented by LegalZoom.
Our next ESPN Big Monday doubleheader is another ACC Big 12 one for you. Miami and Virginia tip off at 7 p.m. Eastern. Then it's West Virginia hosting Texas. And don't miss Super Tuesday tomorrow on ESPN. First, South Carolina takes on the Gators at 7 p.m. Eastern. Then Iowa hosts Indiana.
It's the kind of issue that needs to be studied, in essence, outside of the bright lights of collective bargaining. And I think both of us, while our traditional positions have been the league would like to raise the minimum age from 19 to 20, and at least Michelle's stated position is that she'd like to lower from 19 to 18, I think there's an acknowledgement that the issue is far more complex than that. And it requires sort of all the constituent groups to be at the table.
Interesting conversation. So that was NBA Commissioner Adam Silver saying that the NBA age minimum needs to be studied more. The early entry age for the NBA draft remains 19. American players also must be 1 year removed from high school to be eligible to be drafted. Will Kane still here with us? Stephen A. Should the NBA change the age rule?
No, unless they make it worse. And that's a hard thing for me to say, because I'm a capitalist. I'm an American. I believe in what this country is all about and what it stands for. And I'm certainly of the mindset that if you can serve your country at the age of 18 and what have you, you should be able to go out there and make an honest living. I get that. And I totally understand. For years, I've maintained that position. My problem is what we've watched transpire in terms of the society that we live in, the advent of social media, all the things that have taken place that ultimately puts the league in position of jeopardizing themselves because you give up so much too early, too soon. It's not about the rookie wage scale and all of this other stuff. I'm not in any way trying to facilitate a process where players can't get some level of money in their pockets, whether it be with the NBDL or in some other capacity. My problem is that on far too many occasions, because of the microscopic age in which we're living, youngsters are subjected to far more scrutiny than they ever have before. As a result, it puts them in a bubble and under a microscope that I think on too many occasions they've been ill-equipped to handle. And as a result, I think that the NBA has every right to protect its brand. If the NFL itself can prohibit you from entering the National Football League, even though because of physicality and manhood and all that stuff, but they essentially have been able to keep you from entering the National Football League until you serve at least 2 to 3 years out of high school. I don't know if the NBA should go that far, but it doesn't bother me at all, the 20-year-old age limit, because at some point in time, the brand has to remind you you have an obligation to protect the brand, not just come here, play ball, and get your money.
I don't know how you went through all that analysis, though, and ended up at that conclusion. First of all, I don't think the motivation of the NBA is to protect these youngsters, and then as
I agree with that.
Okay, so we're not looking for these guys to necessarily mature and take care of them and then become better, more productive, safe human beings, and then therefore, even being cynical, better for the NBA brand. This is a giveaway to college basketball. This is a collusion between the NBA and college basketball to maintain relevance and stardom at the college basketball level. The idea that between the age of 18 and 19, you're going to achieve some level of maturity where you know how to handle your social media account is absurd. It's arbitrary. That's why you poke a hole through that and you immediately see the farce that it is. It's not for the kids. It's not even for the NBA brand. It's for college basketball. And that's wrong. I'm a capitalist. If you're a capitalist, you have to fall back on the moral proposition that if you have something to offer the world should be able to accept it. They should be able to give you compensation for it. The fact that the NBA boxes kids out with unique, special talents that can be capitalized, earned upon. And not only that, that can go rotten, that can get injured, can go away in a split second, and you are kept from that, that is the ultimate anti-capitalist thing I've ever seen. These kids should be able to go not just at 18, they should be able to go at 15 if they can. European soccer does this. Other sports leagues in the world do this. Tennis does this. If you're ready, the league should pay you and accept you into it and grow up on the spots.
I'll come back to it.
I would say this. Philosophically, I agree with you, Will. But the reality is that, first of all age limits are somewhat arbitrary. Some people are mature at 19, others at 15, and others at 30, and some people never mature. You know, I mean, so there's always a somewhat arbitrary kind of nature to an age limit that applies across for everybody. I would say that there's actually a solution here, but you can't be so doctrinaire. For those, you're going to make me define that. You can't be so pure in your ideology here. You have to be practical about this, I think. And that is, I think there's a solution. The solution is when they're 18, they can become pros. So that gets away from the kind of syndicate formed between college and the NBA. They can turn pro, but they have to be in the D-League. They will get paid their normal wage that they would get paid in the NBA, but they are mandatory in the D-League for a year. If you want to make the age 20, 2 years. You can accomplish a lot doing that, including getting their skills ready for the NBA. This doesn't help college at all. This is just for the pros. I think it's a symbiotic relationship between the maturity of the player, even as a finished product on the court, and the health of the league. I think it helps each other. They're not risking for future fortune because they're being paid to be in the D-League. And meantime, you've actually pumped up the D-League.
But we've
seen
it work for guys like Kobe Bryant and Kevin Garnett. Like, why?
They're exceptions.
First of all, they are exceptions. I want to get back to your point. For years, I've articulated and elocuted that very position that you have. I am fully aware of the hypocrisy. I am fully aware of the fact that it's collusional from a perspective of the NBA, college basketball. I'm fully aware of the fact that, tennis and hockey and other sports have younger guys. What I'm saying, however, is that the NBA is a private industry. And if you're an industry that's trying to protect your brand, you have every right to look out for it the way that you see fit. When I think about these youngsters, if I'm sitting on the outside looking in, and I'm just thinking about it from a capitalistic perspective, there's nothing to talk about here. I completely agree. But the problem is there have been far too many players, primarily because of the world that we're living in, that adopt exactly the mentality that you talk about. If we have this skill and we have it to offer, we should be able to offer it just like anybody else would be able to. The problem is there's an absence of obligation that you feel towards the brand or the shield once you get that money. And unfortunately, we don't see that in other sports. We don't see too much about tennis players and others getting into the kind of nonsense, the golfers and the like. What we're seeing is that it's happening with football, it's happened with NBA, and as a result, you as a brand have a right to ask yourself, is this in our best interest, just to put people on high enough alert that they will adopt things the way that it should be in your eyes to protect your brand.
I agree the NBA has the right to set the limits of its employment. The NBA certainly has that right. I think our debate is on whether or not the NBA should be doing this. Now, I just don't think the NBA should be taking this paternalistic approach that if you're 17, 18, 19, you're not ready. I don't know, and I'm not... maybe 538, something like this. I don't know. Are 17, 18, 19-year-old NBA players getting in more trouble with the law? Are they having more problems in their life than 23-year-olds are, 22-year-olds? I don't know. I mean, common sense would tell you, I guess, at 22, you're more mature and less susceptible of getting in trouble than 17 or 18. But I really haven't even seen the data on that, whether or not it's true. And, Max, on the D-League thing, here's the thing. These half measures, I know you called it pragmatism, but these half measures often end up with the worst of both worlds. The one and done is the worst of both worlds. It doesn't help college basketball. They don't build stars. They don't build name recognition. It arguably doesn't make the college basketball game any more entertaining, so it's not protecting them. And on the other hand, it's hurting these kids, and they're not able to get to their earnings potential quicker. The D-League is something similar. I think Molly's point about Kevin Garnett and Kobe Bryant is not necessarily an exception to the rule. They may be, I understand there's a bunch of players who don't become Kobe and Kevin Garnett, but why would you force them to the D-League? What are you going to pay them? Half their salary?
What I would say
their salary? You're still hurting their earnings potential for what? Maturation?
No, you pay them the full salary.
Maturation?
You pay them the full salary. They just got to stick in the D-League. Look, here's the issue that we're running into right now. There's so much talent and upside with these kids that the teams want to snap them up before they're really worth it because they may one day be worth it. So you have an inefficient marketplace. Kids getting paid too much, kids forced in over their head, not developing well, etc. If you just talk about the product on the floor for the NBA, which is what you want to do apparently, right, then actually it helps to have a halfway house between college and the pros where they can develop and make money.
Let's not forget one of the other subjects that we're tackling today. We're talking about the All-Star game. We're talking about how pathetic it was. We're talking about the absence of effort and what have you. Why? Large part due to those guaranteed contracts that they have, and they don't have to worry about it. There's but so much effort that they have to put forth. Well, it's emblematic of the age that we're living in. Again, I'm not talking about compromising their money. I'm simply saying that protecting your brand and establishing that there's a level of decorum, not just performance, but decorum that comes along with it. We all have that in corporate America. A lot of times, the athletes themselves don't have it because of the guaranteed dollars that they have. I'm saying you have to take that into consideration.
Okay.
You're probably right with all the details that you're pointing to, but it gives me cause to pause because I want to dog it in exactly what you explained until I see some of the attitudes of these guys just because they got guaranteed
You can't
money.
protect people from failure. You can't protect teams from failure. You can't protect the league from failure. You can just allow everybody to do their best.
We see it in so many other fields, musicians, actors. I don't know. I just think if you can fight for our country and go risk your life, how can you say you can't shoot a basketball?
You remember, we're not talking about them not
For money.
We're not telling them not get their money.
You can do
get
all
it.
that stuff, just maybe not in the NBA.
Well, thank you so much for being
Thank you,
here.
guys.
Kyrie Irving usually makes news with his play on the court, but it's his comments off the hardwood that are drawing headlines.
No, the earth is flat.
Oh, there we go.
The earth is flat. There's no concrete information except for the information that they're giving us. They're particularly putting you in a direction of what to believe and what not to believe. And the truth is right there. You just got to go search it.